Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video we have part 3, the final part in the story of Thomas Ball, the poor man who was vilified by the court and who self-immolated himself after a 10-year divorce battle where on principle he simply wouldn't go to a little bit of court-ordered counseling which would have solved everything. But he didn't do it because he knew he was right. And he didn't do anything wrong, certainly nothing criminal, and certainly nothing that raises itself to the level of systematic abuse that would require somebody to get counseling. And he put his foot down and he said, heck no, I am not going to do that because I didn't do anything wrong. And I, in large part, agree with him. He shouldn't have hit his kid. But at the same time, one incident is not sufficient reason to lose your kids, especially when you got all these women out here tossing kids off balconies and drowning them and all that kind of crap. And they're trying to drown them or trying to cook them in a microwave oven, and they're still getting custody after they failed to kill the kid. It's crazy. The hypocrisy of it. So let's continue with this final part. Page 3 of 3. In 2009, Ball filed one of his motions seeking unsupervised visits with his daughters. Yeah. He gets visits with his son. Oh, but you can't see your daughters. You're a man. So you hit your children once in your entire life. You hit a child once. So you must be some kind of freaky, creepy, weirdo, pedophile, abusive guy. We can't let you be alone with women. But it's okay if you're alone with a guy because he's worth less. Your son isn't worth as much as your daughters. So we won't put out as much effort to protect your son as we will your daughters. Most of the motions he wrote were competent and well written. But this one meandered and personally criticized the judge. It also noted that a mental health specialist who consulted on the case had died. Ball wrote that he wouldn't visit the cemetery for fear that if I do, then I will urinate upon her grave. That's a little strange. Of course, now what is this, 2009, and the divorce started in what? 2001, so this is over 8 years by this point of legal struggle, so the guy is pretty much, he's broke because all this time he's been paying child support, and I'm not sure if he had to pay alimony or not. This story doesn't go into that much detail, but this guy is essentially broke at this point, paying child support for 3 kids that he's not even allowed to see because this stubborn judge wouldn't acknowledge that the guy had not done anything criminally wrong. And that's what's going on here. You know the really stubborn people are? The judge who is essentially white knighting for the mother and who is essentially taking her side simply because she's a woman. Those are the people that are stubborn and prideful. This judge and his ex-wife are who are to blame for his death, if you ask me. And these lines in his latest motion, that if he went to the cemetery, he would urinate on the grave of a mental health specialist who consulted on the case, one that probably said something negative about him. Well, this guy has been going through a struggle for 8 years. I'm not surprised he's starting to unravel at this point. Some people can only take so much before they start to lose it. Duh! His writings grew increasingly dark. In his last letter published online by the Sentinel, Ball gave the history of the Molotov cocktail and exhorted divorced fathers to burn down courthouses and police stations. So right now he's at the end of his rope after 8-9 years here. I can't honestly blame him. He can't see his daughters, barely gets to see his son. This guy has just been marginalized and ignored and treated like he's some kind of deviant sicko because all he did, but he hit a girl. Oh my God, this right here should tell you how stilted and just out of whack society is that he hit his own daughter, smacked her in the face once, and now he's this pariah. He's a pariah. It's his kid. The judge said nothing criminal had taken place. It was inappropriate, but it wasn't criminal. And yet the court system and his wife for 9 years are refusing to let him see his kids because he won't go to a court-ordered counseling session because he doesn't believe he did anything wrong. Who's the stubborn one here? A man who did nothing wrong and isn't going to admit that he did something wrong, or a court that won't admit, and a wife that won't admit he didn't do anything wrong and are going to keep pushing and ruining the lives of his kids and his family just because they want to make him jump through this hoop. And, of course, they really know he won't. And so that's why they keep pressing for this. The wife, because she doesn't want him to see the kids because she's this vindictive harpy. And the judge, because, nobody's going to tell me what they are and are not going to do in my court. I'm going to make you go to that. And so it became a battle of wills, clearly, between him and the judge and his ex-wife. Story goes on to say, outside of these grim papers, Ball came off as an intelligent and funny guy with a deep love of history, genealogy, and Motown music, according to the people who knew him. He always smelled like freshly ironed clothes, said friend Trish Hamill of Milford, New Hampshire, who spoke to Ball frequently. They visited historic buildings and cemeteries together. She brought him to blues concerts several weeks before he died. He's a sweet and gentle person, just in a lot of pain, she said. Most of the complaints in Ball's last letter sounded familiar. From their many conversations, she said everything except for the violence. I can't reconcile that. This was just a guy that was at the end of his rope. He was depressed. He was desperate. And when somebody's suicidal like that, yeah, they're going to speak sometimes in violent ways, even if they're a very peaceful person. The Balls were due back in court this month for hearing on a possible contempt finding against Tom, who had lost his... Of course! She's bled him dry so much, drove him to the point of desperation and depression and feeling suicidal to the point where he loses his job and can't pay his child support. A possible contempt finding against Tom, who had lost his job and had fallen several $1,000s behind in child support. So for 10 years, he's paying his child support dutifully. But the moment he falls behind, he's got 3 kids. So it doesn't take long to be thousands of dollars in the rear. 1 month, 2 months. And of course, right when he's in the rears, that wife is on his butt like white on rice, and she's taking him to court immediately. Who sounds like the evil, vindictive, stubborn, prideful, nasty person here? Him or her? He wrote that he expected to be jailed. 10 days before suicide, Ball did 2 things that in hindsight suggest he was plotting his death. During visiting time with his son, Ball drove to the courthouse in Keene. Oh, it's perfectly okay if you visit your son. Just aren't your daughters because they're girls and, you're a guy. So we automatically have some kind of creepy imagery in our heads of what you might do with or to them. So no, you can't see them. Got out of his car and took a long look at the building, Karen Ball told the police. That same day, Ball emailed a friend. What does that mean? Wait, what? During visitation time with his son, Ball drove to the courthouse in Keene, got out of his car and took a long look at the building. Karen Ball. Would that be his ex-wife who wants to, even after his death, try to make him appear to be some kind of whack job? He took a long look at a building. What the hell does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. But of course, he's dead now, so I'm going to speak ill of the dead and try to paint him and as horrible a light as possible, just so that people don't look at me badly. Yeah. Ooh, she's wonderful, isn't she? Boy, wouldn't you just love to be married to her? That must have just been a picnic for this guy. So anyway, to continue, that same day, Ball emailed a friend, Wayne Jewett of North Attleboro, saying he would need help sending out a statement later in June. At the time, it didn't make any sense, said Jewett. Ball never followed up, apparently deciding to mail his final letter to the Sentinel. Security cameras recorded Ball moving methodically in his last moments. The release video is described in police reports. Ball tugged at the locked doors of the Cheshire County Superior Courthouse. He left his driver's license and the key to his Ford Mustang in a sandwich bag on the sidewalk next to him. It's a very thoughtful guy. He doesn't want the authorities to have a difficult time moving his car. So he left the keys beside him in a sandwich bag and his license so they wouldn't have any difficult time identifying him. This is a thoughtful, kind man. An evil bastard would have just tossed the keys away and said, screw them SOBs. Let them tow my car and find some way to put it in neutral and get it out of there and have to jimmy the door, and I don't care about them. But he thoughtfully leaves his license and keys. That tells me a lot about the guy's character right there. Even when he's killing himself, he's being thoughtful and he's thinking about others. Ay. The only evil person I see here, the only person in the wrong, is the wife and the judge. Next, he opened a red plastic gasoline can, tipped the container above his head, and drenched himself. With a red cigarette lighter clutched in his right hand, he sat down on the concrete, reenacting the iconic Vietnam era of a Buddhist monk's politically charged suicide by fire. He jumped up when the flames appeared and walked 20 feet from the courthouse doors before he fell. A passerby kicked dirt on him to try and douse the flames. Oh, well, at least somebody tried to help. Ay, ay, ay. A police officer ran up with a fire extinguisher, but it was too late for Ball. The last words of his last letter were meant for his children. You are to stick together no matter how old you get or how far apart you live, he wrote, because it's like Grandma always says, the only thing you really have in this world is your family. Now, I want to end this video with a picture of Thomas Ball. Here is a man, aged 58 when he died. He spent 10 years fighting for the right to see his children. For 10 years, he paid child support. No problem. Yet he still was not allowed to see his daughters because the court had supposedly deemed him a threat, which was nothing more than a pretext, and they just demanded that he do what they say because we are the court. We don't care if you're guilty or not. We don't care if you're a threat or not to your kids. You are going to jump through any and every hoop we require you to because you are a man, you are a plow horse, and you will do everything we say. And if you don't, we're going to destroy your life. And that's how the system treats men. If he'd have been a woman, no problem. No problem. But of course, this doesn't happen to women, does it? In the majority of cases, they get the children anyway. It's only in 2-3% of cases max that men will actually get the children. And if that happens, the woman has to be some kind of psycho, axe murderer, serial killer. And even then, she might get custody of the kids. So this man's sad story is a perfect example of how the system is 100% against men. You will not win. Do not play. You will be a loser every time. Now, was he right in fighting for 10 years? Couldn't he have just went to see the counselor and that's it? No more problem. Would that have not been the smarter thing to do? Probably. But he chose to stand on his principles. He did not believe he was a threat to those kids. And everything I've seen says he wasn't. For 10 years, he saw his son. Was there ever a report of him harming that child? Obviously not, because if there had, you and I and everybody else knows after reading this article that you know full well she would have reported this guy. He misses child support twice after 10 years. 2 or 3 times. He was in the rears for $3,000. Hardly a deadbeat dad. Oh, but he lost his job. Yeah, because he was down in the dumps because he couldn't see his kids. Should he have went to see a counselor just to do things the easy way, and then he could have seen all his kids and all his troubles would have been over? That would have solved the problem, yeah. But he wasn't a threat to his kids. He didn't need the counseling. He was not an abusive person. There was no pattern of abuse. He just disciplined his child the way he saw fit. Was he right to smack the kid? Probably not. But should he have suffered through 10 years of this? Couldn't the court have said, hey, 10 years now, you haven't done anything to the son. You see all the time. You've been a great guy, good guy. Okay, we'll just take back that counseling thing. No. The only stubborn people here were them and his evil ex-wife, whose only mission in life seemed to be to destroy him. And after he died, she was still trying to portray him as evil. So let us all raise a cup and say R.I.P. to Thomas Ball, a man with principles and character and big brass balls, who to his very end was not going to give in to the system that is doing all it can to destroy us men. This man was courageous, and in many ways he was a hero, and yes, he did commit suicide, which I wouldn't advocate for anyone, but it's perfectly understandable. And look at the stand that this guy made, though, gentlemen. He could have very easily caved in, and he didn't. So I raise my cup to him, Thomas Ball. And I hope that he will rest in peace. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you all a good day. Take care.